Daylight savings here, and that means the Norwood Summer crits are back on. This is the first Tuesday night crit of the season, and I am thrilled to be back at Victoria Park. We've got a standard direction crit today. There's a slight wind, it's nothing huge, a bit of a headwind up the back straight, and there's a very slight left to right cross headwind. There was enough wind that you got up a lot of speed down the back straight, and that was important later on in this race. I came into this race deciding to race really smart, in other words, to not do any work that I didn't have to do. We had a big bunch today, 39 riders, and because it was a pretty light breeze and a tailwind down the main straight, it was unlikely, I thought, that a break was going to get away. Perhaps the only interesting thing about this race is that there were 3 other grades on the track at the same time. D grade was running directly after us, and E and F were running together another minute back. So there were a few times when we had to pass them, which got a bit hectic sometimes, but other than that, it was a pretty cruisy race. Coming up down the back straight, being on the left, you were protected and you can easily make up some bike lengths. At this point in the race, though, I don't want to be on the front. Nick's having a bit of a fondle, so I'm just going to hang in the back of the pack and ease off the power. I mentioned that there were a couple of other grades on the track. I think we're passing D grade here. And it's at the worst possible time, passing them right through the hairpin at the bottom of the track, which slows us down to a crawl, but once we get past them we get to kick on a bit. Although we kind of don't, and I don't know why this always seems to happen, but when we pass a lower grade, we always seem to either slow down or they speed up, and we end up just sort of sitting in front of them, blocking the road, doing absolutely nothing. Few people shouting, but once that was all sorted out, we got on our way. And genuinely, there really isn't much to report on for the rest of this race until the last couple of laps. Coming in with about 4 laps to go, Nick Chabrel goes on the attack, Lachlan Turnick following him. Nothing much comes of it, but there's enough people ahead of me with diesel engines that I'm not too worried about it. So I'm just going to slide back a few positions and let some other people do the chasing. May never end up getting more than a few metres, and I haven't spent any energy. So we're coming in for 3 laps to go. I'm slightly in the wind here out on the left, but at this point I'd rather be on the left, because when you go around the top corner and you move around into the back straight, you want to be on the left hand side because that's the protected side and that's where you can move up the most easily. So I'm willing to spend a little bit of energy here. As you can see, the pace has come out, so I'm only doing sort of 230 watts and gaining a few wheels. But as we come around the corner, I'm on the outside. I can take the line that I want through this corner. I can keep pedalling for most of it rather than having to pause pedalling through the corner. And now I'm where I want to be. I'm punching out of the corner and I'm protected from the wind. And as we come around to collect the 2 laps to go, this is where being on the left-hand side has its advantages. So Nick Chabrel comes past again. And because I'm on the left, I'm not boxed in. I don't choose to go with him because I'm in a good position. But as the washing machine starts to rotate and people start to go backwards, I've got enough space that I can choose to go if I want to. Or I can see that someone's taken up the chase and just sit back a bit more comfortably. If I was on the right hand side, although I'm more protected from the wind, I've got nowhere to go. And since we're finally in a point of the race where people are lining it up in the gutter, I think having the extra space is more important. So as we come past with about a lap and a half to go, I'm in a pretty good position. I mean, with about a lap and a half of this race to go, we've got about 2Ks of the race left, and I'm actually pretty happy with where I'm at. A couple of the JKT riders have just gone past. 121 is Luke White, and then just ahead of me, number 17 is Jake Nesbitt. Jake's a great sprinter. He's won just about every race in the Super Series this season in Cat 2, and he's got teammates with him, so I know I'm in a pretty good spot. I'm on the protected side here on the left, so I'm cruising into this corner, and I'm having to hit the brakes every time through this corner. But coming through the corner or taking a wide line, I can hold a lot more speed, and I don't have to do as much of a sprint to get back up to speed on the way out, coming up this little rise. But having said that, I do lose a couple of wheels here, and now coming into the last lap, my focus is going to be on not losing any more position and trying to conserve as much energy. Now, traditionally, when I've raced a Vic Park crit, I've always felt that I've started my sprint too late. Brett Schnitzling on the blue S-Works comes past, number 259. He comes past pretty quickly, and I thought for a moment he was going to attack, so I stuck on his wheel. But in the end, he just sort of sat with the bunch. But I decided for this race that I was going to try to attack and start my final sprint much earlier than usual. So I decided my goal for this race was going to be first into the last corner. I thought Brett was going to pull off here, but he then takes a really wide line around the corner, and hops up on the curb and starts sprinting to get ahead of Jared. Jared in the red and white drops the wheel, so I have to do a bit of a sprint to get back up onto Brett's wheel here. But then the guys at the front pull up a little, and that's when I decide to hit it. Now this is the tailwind section. I'm on the protected side, and so when I do come past, I come past with quite a bit of speed. Brett Schnitzeling jumps in behind me, but I'm actually off the power now, and I'm cruising into this corner. So although I've sprinted, I take a terrible line through this corner, and I think what works for me is that Brett takes just as bad a line, and when I do start sprinting out of the corner, he's already 5 or 6 bike lengths behind me. And from that point, whoever's going to chase me is going to have to do just as much work as I do. Jake Nesbitt comes past him with a whole lot of speed, and he starts closing me down, but I've got enough pace on to get across the line first and take my first B-grade win with a decent sized field. So I think I might have won a B-grade crit, a winter crit 3 or 4 years ago, but this is the first time I've won a B-grade crit with the full field and some genuinely good sprinters chasing me. So looking back at that, the critical parts of this were picking up and closing the gap that Jared had left and getting across to Brett's wheel, taking that sort of half a second to recover, and then really sprinting and hitting it hard when I did. Coming past these guys with this much speed gave me a bit of an advantage because it meant that I could cruise into the corner. But honestly, I think the rest of this is more due to the fact that the guy behind me took a bad line through the corner rather than any particular tactical brilliance on my part. Looking into the rear camera, you can see I take a bit of a break. And when I do come past, I come past with a little bit of speed, but I'm not, leaving them in my dust. And I do have that opportunity to cut the power completely for maybe 5 seconds leading into that corner. And going into the corner, I'm only a bike length ahead, and it's really just that I get back on the power sooner than Brett and open up that gap, leaving Jake in his wake with just a little bit more work to do than he perhaps needed to. I reckon if Brett had been able to stay on my wheel through the corner, Jake would have been able to come past him and take that win pretty easily. But as it was, I had 5 or 6 bike lengths. And that was enough to get the W on the day. And you can see from James from Ride Adelaide's photo that the gap back to number 2 was really not that big. It was probably only 1 or 2 bike lengths in the end, so Jake was coming with speed. But nice to put one in the bag. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.